Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. In this update, we have another day of more storms building across the middle part of the country, and we've got a lot of heat that will be building out west. So, we're going to break down the details for you over the next 7 days. Take a look at the big picture, and I'll show you what's happening. We've got this dominating ridge of high pressure that's really starting to build across much of the desert southwest, while we have another disturbance that's actually moving in across the Pacific Northwest. That's actually bringing some light to moderate rain showers and some heavier winds across that region. But it's really the middle part of the country where we've seen these convective complexes. But yet we had another one blow up in the overnight hours, really packing a punch there in Kansas. Some reports up to 80-mile-per-hour winds with that another mesoscale convective system. There we had severe thunderstorm watches in and around the Oklahoma region, and those are the ones that are going to continue down off the northwest flow, moving from northwest to southeast and bring in more convective complexes further south into Texas as well as into Arkansas later on this afternoon with more severe storms. So if we break it down for you on the hazard map, here is the overall big picture where we've got a lot of excessive heat warnings. It's pretty early on to see even some of these areas so extreme like they are going to be coming up for later this week. So we've got widespread excessive heat warnings already draped across a good part of California, much of Arizona. It's really these southern tiers into Texas where they've seen not just the heat, but it's also the combination with all the rain and the moisture in the atmosphere, just the high elevated dew points and the high heat indices. Feels like easily 105, 105, 110, 115, 120, the further south you live. But there it is across the Pacific Northwest. We are going to get that from that disturbance, some higher wind gust across that region, and we do have pockets of flood warnings draped across Washington as well as into Idaho. But further south, there is that still severe thunderstorm watch that's still ongoing for Oklahoma this morning. But that's going to lead to more storms this afternoon. So the Storm Prediction Center has upgraded to pretty big area of a slight risk for severe storms from Oklahoma City to Tulsa down to Springfield, back into Memphis, all the way into Little Rock. And yes, that would push further south across into Texas, into the Dallas-Fort Worth region, into East Texas, and that would continue diving further southeast into Shreveport, back into the Jackson region. We are looking at a mainly wind threat with these mesoscale convective systems, but as we saw yesterday, there were pockets of very large hail. In fact, the further you live near the Wichita Falls region, you're likely going to be seeing some of that larger hailstones. And man, they had two hailstones yesterday, one into the Texas Panhandle, one pretty much close by of 6 inches, folks. That is some crazy monster hail out there in Texas yesterday. And that's going to be pretty close because some of those pictures look like, it's going to be pretty close to breaking the record there at 6.4 inches. But nonetheless, a massive hail where I don't think we're expecting that big of a hail today, but nonetheless, we could get some bigger hail into Wichita Falls region. But it's all really the dew points just off the charts. And in fact, it's so high. If that hits 80 in Dallas today, that would actually tie the all-time record, folks. That's the territory that we're in. It's just a very, very muggy day as the Gulf of Mexico is just prime for business. And as these disturbances taps into this, water, just this humid environment, and it doesn't take much to overturn the atmosphere. And that's why we have the severe storms in place that are going to unfold across that region. And plus they're going to be tapping into a very high level of instability. So it's the combination of all that with the disturbance moving across. We got outflow boundaries, and then we have high instability rates combined with the higher dew points. That is a perfect combination to spell trouble for significant severe weather across the region with another mesoscale convective system. And the higher dew points are going to lead to that heavier rainfall and going to be seeing pockets of flash flooding with all the saturated soils and the higher wind gust as well. So as these mesoscale systems move across, essentially from, they basically start northeast, but as they grow taller and upscale growth, they tend to move further east. But then as they grow even taller, they tend to start moving east, southeastward. And those are the ones that typically have the largest hail. And also, those are the ones that start to rotate as well. And we have to be concerned about not just the hail when that happens, but obviously tornadoes are going to be being more prevalent in that environment as those thunderstorm supercells get a little bit taller up in the atmosphere. But overall, here's why that mesoscale convective complex is going to play out over the next 24 hours. We're going to be having waves of energy moving across from the northwest flow that's going to be draped across a good part of Oklahoma, moving across North Texas, back into East Texas, Northeast Texas, into Arkansas, as well as into Louisiana, back into Mississippi and portions of Missouri. So we'll have that instability, complements of that disturbance up there across the Pacific Northwest. That will move across, bring in some cooler conditions propagating across Montana as well as in the Dakotas. And also, they're going to have those higher wind gusts as well. Then heading into tomorrow, kind of the same deal, right? We'll have like a little stalled frontal boundary draped across this region. We've got the ridging still building. We've got the troughing coming in, and this will eventually swing across the Ohio Valley as we get deeper into the week. But for tomorrow, we still have those heavier rains really highlighted across the middle part of the country with the persistent northwest flow. Now we have the perfect combination of heavier rains across Minnesota, back into Wisconsin, into Iowa there, as well as into Missouri. Those will, getting into Arkansas, back into areas of Oklahoma, and then lighter amounts as this will continue to push from west to east. But for those areas you see in green, will likely pick up to an inch of rainfall in that area. Those areas you likely see in the yellow shaded area, that's typically where you would see anywhere from maybe 1 to possibly up to 3 inches of rainfall. And that's just over that 24-hour time span. But yeah, the heat is going to be coming in. We are going into summer, folks, right? So this is even pretty early to get some of these high excessive heats, even for some of these areas across California, much of the desert Southwest, with widespread, record temperatures. Even 11 of them could potentially unfold across those regions, especially further south you live. But those 90s start to surge further north into Oklahoma as well as into Kansas. We are going to be seeing more of the ridging starting to dominate, and that will kind of shut off the northwest flow at least for several days while the heat kind of takes over Wednesday and Thursday, as the heat will really building. Now we're talking up to 17 record high temperatures across this region. So the only cooler anomalies in town are going to be where that trough is going to be propagating across the northern tier from west to east. And you can definitely see as high temperatures, mid 70s. That's actually really nice, right? You'll take that all day long across the Ohio Valley. And so just to experience the very nice somewhat cooler conditions, for this time of year. But that's also going to bring the instability. So as with the ridging in place across much of the west coast, by the time we head into Thursday, that's going to shut off the taps at least temporarily, and that will put the instability where that troughing inversion is draped across much of the mid-Atlantic as well as into the Tennessee Valley, getting into portions of the Southeast, and that will likely swing across into the Carolinas as well, along with the cooler air. So you can see the ridge will be building in from out west. That's why they've got all the excessive heat warnings and watches. In fact, even Death Valley, if they hit 125 on Thursday, that will be the earliest on record. And right now they're forecasting 124. So it just shows you the heat that's likely going to be building across much of that region. But it's not the heat, it's the cooler conditions that's much across the Ohio Valley and to the Great Lakes regions. And that's why you're going to have temperatures in the 60s and 70s across this region and drier conditions. So if the one day we're talking about where it's predominantly on the drier side for the better part of the country will be Thursday, with that ridging build across much of the west and the central plains. And by the time we head into late Thursday, that disturbance is mainly going to be further off into the East Coast. It's mainly just the East Coast is going to have that instability, but everybody else should be remaining on the at least drier side, at least temporarily. Because I say temporarily because by Friday, here's the ridging, right? So the ridging starts to back off just slightly. So, if anything, when it backs off just slightly, that's going to open the door again for the northwest flow and allow more complexes to highlight across east of the continental divide and traverse across that boundary. And that's exactly where we see more heavy rain as well, but moving back into similar areas with the ridging starting to break down just slightly. That opens the door for elevated rain showers across that region back into Kansas again, into Oklahoma, as well as into Missouri, back into Arkansas. And this will be during the day on Friday. But I think it continues going into this weekend and even next week, because mainly the ridge is going to continue to build across a good part of the west. That will continue to tap into that northwest flow activity starting back on Friday, really amplifying again on Saturday into the weekend, with the much cooler anomalies locked and loaded across a good part of Illinois, Indiana, as well as into Ohio, back into Kentucky. There, you're going to be feeling those cooler conditions, in a big way. But it's all about the heat out west. Much of the western regions, widespread slight to moderate excessive heat, not just coming up this week, but it actually goes into next weekend as well, with mainly all those areas out west, and then areas just to the east of that will be on the wetter side, starting to cross the middle part of the country again. And that's exactly where we see the heavier rains come back on Friday, and when they would extend again through the weekend for a good part of portions of Texas again, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, back into Arkansas, as well as into Louisiana. And then we'll have another pocket of energy with that trough draped across the East Coast, with the heavier rains moving into that region by then, back into Delaware, New Jersey, up the East Coast into Long Island, portions of New York here, getting into Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, as well as into Vermont, New Hampshire, and back into southern portions of Maine. But overall, this is what the breakdown, even on the ensemble guidance, goes, right? So those areas that have seen a lot of rain lately, I don't really see overall the pattern changing terribly too much. You'll have slight breakdowns, but more or less, the middle part of the country is still going to be inundated with the heavier rains for at least the next 10 days. I don't really see this pattern breaking down until maybe portions of the second half of June. So, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update. Why I protect you before and after storm.